Welcome to my channel, detailing events throughout the decades. 1987, MV Dona Paz. Dona Paz was built in 1963 by Nomichi Sozan, in Hiroshima, Japan. While in Japan waters, it had a passenger capacity of 608. In 1975, the Dona Paz was sold to Sulpicio Lines, a Filipino operator, and at the time was known as Don Sulpicio. On June 5, 1979, the vessel was gutted by fire, while en route from Manila to Cebu. All 1,164 on board were rescued, but the vessel was declared a total loss. The wreck was repurchased from the underwriters by Sulpicio Lines and was refurbished and returned to service, as the Dona Paz. On December 20, 1987, at 6:30 in the morning, the Dona Paz left from Tacloban for Manila, with a stopover in Catbalogan. The vessel was due in Manila at 4 in the morning the following day. At around 22:30 that evening, the ferry was at Dumali Point, along the Tablas Strait, near Marinduque. The weather at sea that night was clear, but the sea was very choppy. Most of the passengers were asleep at this time, when the Dona Paz collided with the MT Vector, an oil tanker en route from Bataan to Masbate. The Vector was carrying 1,050,000 liters of gasoline, and other petroleum products, owned by Coltex Philippines. Upon collision, the Vector's cargo ignited, causing a fire on the tanker, which then spread to the Dona Paz. Survivors recalled the crash and explosion, which sent panic throughout the Dona Paz. The flames spread rapidly through the vessel. The sea surrounding the two vessels was also on fire. There were no life vests found on the Dona Paz, and crew were running around in a panic, with the other passengers. None of the crew gave any orders or made any attempts to organize an evacuation. It was later said that life jacket lockers had been locked, so no one could gain access to these. Survivors were forced to jump off the vessel and swim among charred bodies in the flaming waters around the vessel. Some survivors used suitcases as flotation devices. The Dona Paz sank within 2 hours after being hit, with the Vector sinking 4 hours after the collision. Both vessels had sunk in about 545 meters of shark-infested waters. The passing MS Don Claudio had witnessed the explosion and came to the rescue, finding survivors of the Dona Paz. The captain threw a net for the survivors to climb onto. Only 26 survivors were rescued from the water. 24 of them were from the Dona Paz. None of the crew of the Dona Paz survived. Most of the survivors sustained burns from jumping into the flaming waters. It is reported that it took 8 hours before Philippine maritime authorities learned about the accident, and a further 8 hours for search and rescue operations. The official passenger manifest of the Dona Paz recorded 1,493 passengers and 59 crew on board. The ferry was able to carry 1,424 passengers. A revised manifest was released on December 23, 1987, which showed 1,583 passengers and 58 crew on board. An anonymous official of Sulpicio Lines told officials that since it was Christmas, tickets were usually purchased illegally aboard the ship at a cheaper rate, and those passengers were not listed on the manifest. Survivors claimed that it was possible that Dona Paz may have been carrying as many as 3,000 people on board, maybe even 4,000 at the time of the accident. The ferry was so overcrowded that passengers were forced to sleep along corridors and on boat decks. Of the 24 passengers who survived, only 5 of these were listed on the manifest. Of the 21 bodies that were recovered and identified, only 1 was listed on the manifest. In February 1988, the Philippine National Bureau of Investigation stated that on the basis of interviews with relatives, that there were at least 3,099 passengers and 59 crew on board at the time, leading to 3,134 fatalities. In January 1999, a presidential task force report estimated that on the basis of court records and more than 4,100 settlement claims, that there were 4,341 passengers on board at the time of the accident, giving the total death count of the Dona Paz and the Vector to be 4,386. According to the initial investigation conducted by the Philippine Coast Guard, only one apprentice member of the crew of the Dona Paz was monitoring the bridge when the accident occurred. Other officers were either drinking or watching television. The ship's captain was watching a movie in his cabin. However, the Board of Marine Inquiry eventually cleared Sulpicio Lines of any fault with the accident. Subsequent inquiries revealed that the Vector was operating without a license, lookout or properly qualified master. In 1999, the Supreme Court of the Philippines ruled that it was the owners of the Vector who were liable to indemnify the victims of the collision. Even though the death toll was never fully known, we forever remember those poor souls who perished on that fateful evening. May you never be forgotten. Thank you for watching and learning about events throughout history. Please subscribe to my channel to view other events throughout the decades.